The stars twinkled quietly as Captain James Walker floated inside the International Space Station, sipping his morning coffee from a sealed container. Through the large observation window, Earth looked peaceful, a blue marble wrapped in white clouds. He had no idea that this ordinary Tuesday would change human history forever. High above Earth's orbit, hidden behind advanced cloaking technology, the Galactic Council's survey ship, Star Seeker, watched the planet with growing interest. The ship's commander, High Observer First Class, looked down at the primitive civilization with a mixture of amusement and pity. "Look at them," he said to his crew, pointing at the various satellites and space debris circling Earth. "They still use chemical rockets and solar panels. How quaint." His words drew quiet laughter from the bridge crew. The massive alien ship's sensors continued their scan of Earth. They picked up thousands of radio and television signals, internet communications, and military transmissions. The High Observer's three eyes blinked rapidly as he processed the information about humanity's current technological level. "They spend more resources on weapons than space exploration," he noted, shaking his head. "Typical of Class D species, always fighting among themselves instead of reaching for the stars." Back on the space station, Captain Walker was checking the daily systems report when the first anomaly appeared. The station's basic sensors detected something massive approaching, but it made no sense. The object seemed to appear out of nowhere. "Houston, ISS here," Walker called through the radio. "We're picking up some strange readings. Can you confirm?" The response from Earth was equally confused. Every space agency on the planet was suddenly detecting the same thing. The High Observer had decided it was time. With a casual wave of his hand, he ordered the ship's cloaking field to be dropped. "Let's see how they react to true technological superiority," he said, his thin lips curving into what passed for a smile in his species. The alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit, dwarfing the International Space Station. It was beautiful and terrifying. A massive structure of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields, easily the size of a small city. Its surface seemed to shift and change colors under the sunlight, displaying technology far beyond human understanding. Captain Walker stared through the window, his coffee container floating forgotten beside him. The alien ship's size made the space station look like a child's toy in comparison. But something about the way it had appeared, so deliberately theatrical, made him frown. It felt like a show of power, like someone trying to impress. Emergency meetings were called in every major government. Military forces worldwide went on high alert. But before any decisions could be made, the aliens broadcast their first message. It came through every radio, television, and communication device on Earth simultaneously, in perfect local languages. "People of Earth," the message began, "we are representatives of the Galactic Council. We have been observing your primitive but promising civilization. As per Council Protocol 7249B, your species qualifies for our Uplift program for developing races. Rejoice, you will now receive the guidance you so desperately need." The message continued with details about humanity's new status as a protectorate species, but Walker wasn't listening anymore. He was watching the alien ship, noting how it positioned itself in the most visible orbit possible, how every movement seemed calculated for maximum impact. "They're showing off," he muttered to himself. 20 years in the military had taught him to recognize psychological warfare when he saw it. The aliens weren't just making contact, they were establishing dominance. As humanity struggled to process this massive change in their reality, the High Observer watched with satisfaction. "Add them to the registry," he ordered. Classification: Primitive Species P3471. Notable Traits: Basic Space Presence, Internal Conflicts, Limited Technological Understanding. Requirements: Full oversight and guidance. In the following hours, more alien ships appeared in Earth's orbit. Each one was more impressive than the last, a parade of technological wonders meant to humble humanity. But they never noticed how carefully humans were watching them, studying them, learning from them. They didn't realize that humans had survived and thrived for thousands of years by learning from every challenge they faced. They would learn this lesson soon enough. 1 week after first contact, the United Nations building in New York hosted the first official meeting between human leaders and the Galactic Council representatives. Captain Walker stood at attention near the back wall, now serving as Earth's space operations advisor. He watched as the alien High Observer walked into the room, floating slightly above the ground to avoid primitive floor contact. The alien leader looked around the room with all three of his eyes, each one blinking at different times. "This building," he said, his translator making his words sound perfectly human, "is quite charming for a Level D civilization. Though I notice you still use physical supports instead of gravity manipulation. How resourceful." Several human leaders shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The President of the United States stood up to speak, but the High Observer raised one of his four hands, stopping her mid-motion. "Please, let me save you time," he said. "Our scans show your species has potential, but you need proper guidance. For example, your space station." He turned to look at Walker. "It's practically a museum piece. We found similar technology in our historical archives from about 4,000 years ago." Walker kept his face neutral, but his hands tightened behind his back. He had spent years on that station. It might not be fancy, but it worked. It had kept humans alive in space for decades. The High Observer continued his speech, projecting images of various human achievements in the air. With each image, he pointed out the flaws and primitive thinking behind them. "Your rockets use chemical fuel," he said, showing a SpaceX launch, "like children playing with firecrackers." The alien audience laughed politely. "Your computers still use silicon chips," he continued, "not quantum crystal matrices. Your cars still touch the ground. Your buildings don't even heal themselves. But don't worry, we will help you overcome these limitations." A general from China stood up, his face red with anger. "Our civilization has achieved much on our own. We've split the atom, cured diseases, explored our solar system." Yes, the High Observer interrupted. "Just like every other Class D species we've uplifted. Though I must say, most of them didn't waste so much time fighting among themselves." He waved his hand, showing images of human wars throughout history. Walker noticed something interesting. While the alien leader talked, his ship's crew were struggling with their equipment. Earth's atmosphere seemed to interfere with their advanced technology more than they expected. They kept adjusting their translators and environmental suits, looking uncomfortable. The High Observer didn't notice these problems. He was too busy explaining the new rules. "From now on, all technological development must be approved by Council observers. Your military activities will be strictly limited. Space exploration will happen under our supervision only." "And if we refuse?" asked the Russian president. The High Observer's three eyes blinked in perfect sync, a sign of amusement. "Refuse? My dear primitive, you don't have a choice. Your entire solar system is now under our protection. Resistance would be—" He paused, searching for the right word. "Adorable, but pointless." As the meeting continued, Walker watched the aliens closely. Despite their advanced technology, they seemed to struggle with simple things. They complained about Earth's gravity being unstable. They couldn't handle the variety of temperatures in the room. One of them even got confused by a regular door handle. Maybe, Walker thought, being advanced didn't mean being better at everything. Maybe humanity's primitive ways had taught them something the aliens had forgotten: how to deal with problems without perfect technology. The meeting ended with Earth's leaders reluctantly accepting the aliens' terms. As everyone left the room, Walker overheard two alien technicians arguing about why their perfect technology kept glitching on this primitive planet. He smiled slightly. The aliens might mock humanity's technology, but they clearly didn't understand what really made humans strong: their ability to adapt, to solve problems, to survive without relying on perfect tools. The mockery would continue, but Walker had a feeling the aliens would learn some hard lessons soon enough. 1 month into the Alien Guidance Program, Captain Walker found himself aboard the Galactic Council's main ship as Earth's Space Operations Liaison. The aliens had given him an upgraded suit to wear, but he kept his old NASA suit nearby, just in case. A high observer was showing him around the ship's command center, pointing out their advanced technologies with his usual smugness. "And this," he said, gesturing to a glowing screen, "is our primary control system. It responds to thought alone. Much better than your primitive button-pushing methods." Walker watched as an alien crew member tried 6 times to get the thought-controlled system to make a simple course adjustment. Meanwhile, in the background, he noticed human technicians on Earth easily handling their primitive controls. "Fascinating," Walker said politely. He had been collecting observations like this for weeks. The aliens had amazing technology, but they depended on it completely. When things didn't work perfectly, they seemed lost. Later that day, something unexpected happened. The ship's artificial gravity failed for 10 seconds. The alien crew panicked, floating helplessly in the air. But Walker simply adjusted his position like any trained astronaut, helping several aliens reach their emergency controls. "How did you stay so calm?" one young alien technician asked him afterward. "We train for zero gravity," Walker explained. "It's basic space training for us." "But why train when technology can handle it?" the technician asked, genuinely confused. Before Walker could answer, alarms started blaring. A small meteoroid had damaged one of the ship's outer panels. The aliens rushed to their stations, but seemed uncertain what to do. Their automated repair systems were offline. "The panel needs to be fixed manually," an alien engineer announced, sounding terrified. "But our repair drones aren't functioning in Earth's magnetic field." Walker stepped forward. "I can do it." A high observer's 3 eyes blinked rapidly. "You? But this is advanced technology. You can't possibly." "I've done spacewalks before," Walker interrupted. "Many times. We fix things manually on our primitive space station all the time." With no other choice, they let him do the repair. Walker put on his trusted NASA suit. The alien suit wasn't designed for actual work, and went outside. The repair took him 30 minutes. He used basic tools and his years of experience, while the aliens watched in surprise. When he came back inside, the high observer was waiting. "How did you know what to do?" "The panel design isn't anything like your technology." Walker shrugged. "A broken panel is a broken panel. You look at the problem, figure out a solution, and fix it. We've been doing that since we invented the first tools." More surprising things happened over the next few weeks. During an emergency drill, the aliens discovered that humans could make decisions faster in a crisis. When their advanced food synthesizers broke down, they were amazed to learn that humans knew how to cook without machines. The biggest shock came during a power failure. While the aliens struggled without their tech, human crew members quickly organized themselves, using flashlights, manual tools, and their natural problem-solving skills to help restore basic functions. "I don't understand," the high observer said to Walker after another successful human intervention. "Your species is so far behind us in technology. Yet you seem to handle problems better than we do." Walker smiled slightly. "Maybe because we had to solve problems without perfect technology. Every solution we found the hard way." The high observer stared at him for a long moment. For the first time, Walker saw something new in those 3 eyes. Not mockery, but a hint of worry. The aliens were beginning to realize that advanced technology wasn't everything. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their tools, but in their ability to function without them. And soon, this strength would be tested in ways none of them expected. Captain Walker was in the middle of his daily inspection when every alarm on the Galactic Council's main ship started screaming at once. The massive view screens showed a terrifying sight. The sun was ejecting the largest solar flare anyone had ever seen. "Impossible," the high observer shouted. "Our prediction showed no sign of this." All three of his eyes were wide with fear as he stared at the incoming wall of radiation. The alien crew rushed to their stations, their fingers dancing over glowing control panels. "Activating primary shields," one of them announced. "Secondary shields standing by. Our technology will protect us as always." But Walker noticed something wrong. The radiation readings on his primitive handheld device were climbing much faster than the alien systems showed. Their advanced sensors, designed for perfect conditions, were failing under the extreme radiation. "Something's not right," Walker said, moving closer to the main console. "Your shields." A blinding flash cut him off. The solar flare hit them like a hammer, overwhelming the aliens' perfect shields. Sparks flew from every panel as their advanced technology started to fail. "This can't be happening," the High Observer cried. "Our shields are rated for any solar event." But they were happening. Their shields, designed to be flawless, had no backup plan for failure. Walker grabbed his radio, old technology, but reliable. "This is Captain Walker to all Earth stations and vessels. The alien fleet's shields are failing. Their crews are in danger. Begin emergency protocols immediately." The aliens watched in confusion as human space stations and ships began to move. They weren't running away. Instead, they were positioning themselves to help. "What are you doing?" the High Observer asked, his voice shaking. "Your primitive vessels can't possibly." "Our ships are built to survive failure," Walker interrupted. "We don't assume anything is perfect. We plan for things to go wrong." The International Space Station, despite being primitive, had radiation shelters built into its core. Other human ships, designed with multiple backup systems, were already moving to help damaged alien vessels. Warning lights flashed across the alien ship as more systems failed. Their perfect technology, never designed to handle imperfection, was shutting down. The crew stood helpless, trained to rely on automation that no longer worked. "Listen to me," Walker said firmly. "Your ship's core is overheating. We need to shut it down manually." "Impossible," an alien engineer protested. "The core can only be managed by our AI systems." "Your AI is fried," Walker replied. "It's time to do things the human way." Using his years of engineering experience, Walker led a team of human technicians in an emergency shutdown. They worked with basic tools, relied on practical knowledge, and didn't stop even when the heat became almost unbearable. The High Observer watched in amazement as these primitives saved his ship. All around the Earth's orbit, similar scenes were playing out. Human ships were rescuing alien crew members. Earth's outdated radiation shelters were providing safe haven. Human engineers were fixing alien technology with simple tools and determination. "I don't understand," the High Observer said quietly, watching Walker work. "Your technology is so basic. Your methods are so simple. How are you surviving this?" Walker wiped sweat from his forehead as he tightened another manual valve. "Because we never forgot how to work without perfect technology. We never stopped being human." As the crisis continued, more alien ships arrived to help, only to find themselves equally helpless against the solar storm. Their perfect technology failed them one by one. But humanity's primitive solutions kept working, saving lives and protecting both species. The aliens were finally learning an important lesson. Sometimes, being advanced meant more than having perfect technology. Sometimes, it meant knowing how to survive when everything went wrong. The solar storm raged on, but Captain Walker had no time to rest. The International Space Station had become an unexpected safe haven for dozens of alien crew members. Their own ships, with their failed advanced technology, were now death traps in space. "Your station's radiation shielding is primitive," an alien engineer said, watching Walker adjust the manual controls. "But it works better than ours. How is this possible?" "Because we built it to survive, not to be perfect," Walker replied, checking the station's backup systems. "Everything here has backup plans for backup plans." The High Observer floated nearby, all three eyes fixed on the simple mechanical gauges that humans still use to monitor radiation levels. His own perfect sensors were now useless chunks of metal. "We need to rescue more crews," Walker announced, looking at the radar screen showing dozens of stranded alien ships. "But we'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. No teleporters, no force fields, just spacesuits and skill." The aliens watched in disbelief as human rescue teams prepared for spacewalks. They used ropes, manual tools, and simple jetpacks, equipment the aliens had mocked just days ago. "This is madness," the High Observer protested. "You can't possibly." Before he could finish, Walker was already heading to the airlock. "Sometimes madness is exactly what you need to survive," he said, checking his suit's oxygen levels. Humanity's greatest achievements often started as madness. Over the next 12 hours, human rescue teams performed what the aliens thought impossible. They manually navigated through the radiation storm, using their experience and instincts when instruments failed. They cut through damaged hulls with simple plasma torches, carried injured aliens on their backs, and used basic math to calculate rescue trajectories. In the space station's medical bay, human doctors treated alien injuries without their advanced medical scanners. They used observation, experience, and basic medical tools, methods the aliens had called outdated just weeks ago. "Your people are risking their lives," the High Observer said, watching another rescue team return. "With such basic equipment, the danger is—" "We've always risked our lives to save others," Walker interrupted, preparing for another rescue mission. "It's what humans do. We don't need perfect technology to be brave." The alien leader watched as more human ships arrived to help. They weren't impressive to look at. Simple chemical rockets, basic space shuttles, and outdated rescue vehicles. But they worked. They kept working even as the solar storm destroyed more advanced technology. An alien scientist approached Walker with a puzzled look. "We analyzed your equipment," she said. "It's not just simple, it's deliberately redundant. You build things expecting them to fail. Why?" Walker smiled as he helped an injured alien crew member into a medical pod. "Because failure is how humans learn. Every backup system exists because something went wrong once. Every safety procedure comes from a past mistake. We don't try to be perfect. We try to be prepared." The High Observer watched all this with growing understanding. His species had pursued technological perfection for so long that they'd forgotten something important: the strength to survive when perfection fails. As the crisis continued, more alien ships arrived from across the galaxy. But they didn't come to help. They came to learn. They watched in amazement as humans used simple tools and courage to save lives. They saw how Earth's primitive technology kept working while their advanced systems failed. The solar storm was teaching them all a powerful lesson. True advancement wasn't about having perfect technology. It was about having the will, the skill, and the courage to survive when technology wasn't enough. And humanity, it seemed, had been preparing for this moment for their entire history. 1 week after the solar storm began to fade, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. This time, it wasn't in their grand ship. Their technology was still unreliable. Instead, they gathered in the primitive United Nations building, where simple air conditioning and basic lights worked just fine. Captain Walker stood at the front of the room now, not in the back. The High Observer had personally requested his presence, all three eyes showing a new emotion: respect. "We have made a grave error in judgment," the High Observer announced to the gathered alien and human leaders. "Our scans of Earth were incomplete. We measured technology, but missed something far more important." The alien leader waved his hand, activating one of their few working devices. It showed recordings from the crisis: humans performing dangerous spacewalks to save alien crews, engineers fixing advanced technology with basic tools, doctors treating alien injuries without advanced scanners. "While our perfect systems failed," he continued, "humanity's backup plans had backup plans. While our crews panicked, humans stayed calm, and took action. We thought ourselves advanced because our technology never failed. Humans are advanced because they know how to handle failure. A senior alien scientist stepped forward, holding up a simple human wrench. "We found something remarkable in Earth's historical records," he said. "Every human tool, every procedure, every safety system comes from learning from past mistakes. They don't just solve problems, they learn from them." The High Observer nodded. "We also discovered something else, something that truly frightens us." He paused, looking directly at Walker. "Humans have been preparing for everything, even us." Walker didn't blink. It was true. Since the aliens' arrival, humans had been quietly studying their technology, finding its weaknesses, making plans, not for attack, but for survival, just in case. In every human military base, the High Observer continued, we found contingency plans. In every space station, backup systems that could work against our technology. Humans weren't just accepting our guidance. They were learning our weaknesses, adapting their strategies, preparing for every possibility. The alien leader turned to address the human representatives directly. "You never trusted our perfect technology, did you? You were always ready for it to fail." "We hope for the best," Walker replied simply, "but we plan for the worst. It's how we've survived this long." The High Observer's three eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought. "When we first arrived, we classified humanity as a primitive species that needed guidance. We were wrong. Your technology may be simpler, but your ability to survive, to adapt, to face the unknown, it exceeds our own." He raised all four hands, a gesture of highest respect in his culture. "The Galactic Council hereby reclassifies humanity as a Class A resilient species. We don't offer you guidance anymore. We request your help in teaching our people how to survive when technology isn't enough." The room fell silent. Humans had gone from being seen as primitives to being recognized as teachers in just 1 week. Not because they had advanced technology, but because they knew how to live without it. "There's an old human saying," Walker said, breaking the silence. "Smooth seas don't make skilled sailors." Maybe having everything work perfectly isn't the best way to become strong. The High Observer nodded slowly. "We feared your weapons might someday threaten us, but now we understand. Humanity's real power isn't in their weapons or tools. It's in their spirit, their determination, their ability to face any challenge and find a way to overcome it." He looked around the room, at the simple lights, the basic chairs, the unpretentious building that had survived countless storms. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "it's time for us to learn how to be a little more human." 6 months after the great solar storm, Earth had changed. Alien ships still filled the skies, but they weren't there to guide humanity anymore. They were there to learn. Captain Walker, now Admiral Walker, stood in his new office at the Combined Space Academy. Through his window, he could see alien students learning alongside human instructors. They weren't studying advanced technology. Instead, they were learning something more important: how to survive without it. "Admiral," a young alien cadet approached him, holding a simple mechanical wrench. "I don't understand. Why do we need to learn to use these basic tools when we have molecular assemblers?" Walker picked up the wrench, feeling its solid weight. "Because someday your molecular assembler might fail, and when that happens, this wrench might save your life." The High Observer, who now served as the liaison between Earth and the Galactic Council, floated into the office. His three eyes showed amusement as he watched the training sessions below. "Do you know what frightens the Council most about humans now?" he asked Walker. "Not your weapons, not your potential. It's the fact that you're teaching our people to think like you do." Walker raised an eyebrow. "Is that a problem?" "It's a revolution," the High Observer replied. "Our people always depended on perfect technology. Now they're learning to solve problems without it. Some of them are even starting to invent their own backup plans, just like humans do." Down in the training yard, human instructors were teaching alien students the basics of survival: how to navigate by stars, how to repair equipment with basic tools, how to think creatively in a crisis. The aliens who once mocked these primitive skills now competed eagerly to master them. We've started adding manual controls to all our ships, the High Observer continued. Simple mechanical backups, like the ones you use. Some called it a step backward, but after what happened, he shuddered, remembering the solar storm. Walker nodded. Moving forward doesn't always mean making things more complicated. Sometimes it means remembering the simple things that work. The Academy had become famous across the galaxy. Species from thousands of worlds sent their people to Earth to learn what humans called practical survival skills, and what the aliens now called human wisdom. You know what's truly ironic? The High Observer said, watching an alien student successfully complete a manual space repair drill. We came here thinking we would lift humanity up to our level. Instead, you showed us that we had risen so high, we'd forgotten our foundations. Walker smiled as he watched more training sessions. Aliens learning Earth's martial arts, studying human military strategies, practicing emergency procedures. They weren't just learning techniques, they were learning the human way of thinking. The Council has a new theory about why humans advance so quickly, the High Observer continued. Other species try to eliminate failure. Humans embrace it. You learn from it. Every failure makes you stronger. That's why we never stopped practicing the basics, Walker replied. Never stopped preparing for things to go wrong. The more advanced we become, the more we remember what got us here. As the day ended, Walker looked at his schedule for tomorrow. More classes, more training, more sharing of human experience with their alien students. Earth had become the galaxy's school of survival, teaching others what humanity had learned through countless generations of trial and error. The aliens had come to Earth expecting to find primitives who needed guidance. Instead, they found teachers who could show them something they had forgotten. The strength that comes from struggle, the wisdom that comes from failure, and the power of never forgetting your roots. Humanity was no longer feared for their weapons or technology. They were feared and respected for something far more powerful, their unbreakable spirit and their ability to face any challenge and survive. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. True advancement wasn't about having perfect technology. It was about being ready for when technology wasn't perfect. And in that, humanity was the most advanced species of all.